everyone, Michigan here. Welcome back to the channel. Another battle breakdown for you. Not sure what number this is, maybe it's 7 or 8. But before we start, I want to address one comment that I got in the past, which was somebody requesting that I do some breakdowns on losses. Now, it's exceptionally difficult to get a battle that I can use for this battle breakdown series on a loss. And as a lot of the people in the class family know, is that when a team loses, the expectation is that it's the caller's fault. Now, in order for it to be the caller's fault, everything else has to go reasonably well. People have to trade properly, go where they're asked, in a timely and efficient manner, and there'll just be generally no confusion. And the issue with that is that a lot of the losses are because of those reasons. You have 15 players and you have one caller. So the odds that 14 players get it right and the caller is the one who screws it up is pretty low. So when I'm doing a battle breakdown, my focus is on the call, not on the players. Now, I will make comments on the players, but for the most part, you're expecting that the people who I'm sending to a certain position and what I'm requesting of them to do there is what they're actually doing when they get to, well, said position. So the wins that I'm showing you showcase everyone doing what they're supposed to be doing and doing a good job of it. So I'm going to continue to try and find some. However, a lot of the losses that are my fault would be very boring to watch because either I'm driving us into a massive crossfire or I'm just making some stupid decision, and it really wouldn't be that enjoyable to watch, but I'm going to try anyway. So, as we normally do here, we're going to kind of talk about the current situation in the advance, the lineup I chose, why I chose it, who we're facing, all that sort of stuff for the first couple minutes. So, we've stopped the timer at 13 seconds, and let's go over our lineup. So, I currently have 3 IS-7s, 4 S-Conks, 4 Chieftains, 2 Sturves, and 2 EBRs. Now, I didn't actually call for this lineup of tanks. What I was looking for was 2 EBRs, 2 Sturves, and the rest Chieftains. Now, obviously, I didn't get that. You can see I'm here playing with Class X, and their lineup is going to be a little more scarce than, let's say, Class, because Class X is a little further back on the road than Class is, so their members may not necessarily have a Chieftain or that gun depression heavy yet. So I made some sacrifices. So we're going to be playing the middle for the most part, as well as the 7890 here. And as always, follow my mouse on the minimap if possible. I'll blow it up for this portion. So what's our goal here? Before we even got into this battle, we have to come up with a strat. So ours here, or what I've decided to do, is we're going to put our 2 Sturves, you can see there, making Ostrich and Shadow over here on the A line. One is going to be in the back corner at A1, top left corner, and that's because that spot is notoriously difficult to dig a Sturve out of there. He's got plenty of bushes, you can see there by all the green, and that is not, that's not just minimap stuff, that does actually showcase bushes. And then we're going to put one maybe, in the bottom right corner of A2, so that they can support middle, and they can also help shoot the EBRs. We're then going to push a couple, or one Chieftain, or sorry, one S-Conk over here to Echo 2, and that's going to assist with the Sturve and the EBR, who I'm going to send over there in taking out a Sturve. Chieftain, or the S-Conk, sorry, I've misnamed it twice, can help get some shots into that EBR, as well as do some proxy spotting if the EBR decides to come through the bush line. Now we're going to send some of our other S-Conks up the track side, and then everybody else is going to come right onto the rails here, if I can get it zoomed out, right into this area, so that as our second EBR comes up over the tracks here and then comes down, everybody's set up in a position, and we can easily decide which way on the tracks we want to go. But let's get this battle started. So we are playing against Rhine, a clan that I do believe is ranked a little lower than us. However, none of these battles have been freebies. We're having to battle our way through it. I believe we are attacking the enemy's first line of defense. Still fairly early on. So you can see, I'm asking everybody to get ready to shoot that EBR. Now, one thing here that the S-Conks missed is that when you're coming up to the mid, you want to run these ridges here. And that gives you a much better vantage point on the EBR. So you can see I'm setting up here. The max in front of me, I'm going to echelon up. And we're going to see what we can do. Now that EBR ran inside. So I have 2 options here. And they don't have a second EBR, I should note that. So that's the only EBR. If he's not going to cross, it's not like there's another one coming over. Do I come back through the middle, or do I push out the 7? Now you could say, well, you really have to wait because you don't know if they're coming up the 7 or the 8. And that is true, yes. And part of this is a dice roll. But you also can't sit back here on the tracks. If the enemy hit this ridge and you're still sitting here, you are going to be in for a world of hurt. And unfortunately, that isn't going to work. So let's see what I decided to do here. So you can see I am going to ask them to continue going down. Now myself, I am not going to. Now you could say, well, you know, I was in the best position to. I was one of the first ones over. However, as a caller, you need to be in the middle of the map. And there's a couple reasons for that if I haven't stated them before, if this is your first time watching it. One is that you need to be able to see everything. Not just in your view range, but also in your render range. Because that helps you decipher, if we look at the top here, our hit point advantage. So if you're at a render of somebody and they take damage, that isn't going to register in your hit point difference counter. Yes, it will. So you can see a little bit of confusion there. And now we have the first situation brewing, which is the enemy team have opted to push up to the up the 7 line and are going to engage our vehicles coming up the 7. Now, currently, we are not in the greatest position. The 2 IS-7s and the Chieftains coming out over there are going to be widely exposed. So now I have 2 options as well. I could pull them back and maybe take Alpha 8, Alpha 9, or I could continue pushing up, which is the riskier move, however, higher risk, higher reward. Once you get stuck up here in A8 and A9, it's very hard to get out of there. So I am going to opt to continue to push them. And what they're going to do is they're going to work into E0 and F0. Now that's a very valuable position. If you can see me clicking it right there. I'm actually asking the IS-7s to hang back. So initially the IS-7s were supposed to come up. You can see the ping right under the S-conks, but the IS-7s may have missed it. Not a big deal. I can barely see the ping right there as well. So the Chieftains here at E0 get hold down in there. Now it's imperative that they don't actually try and poke and let the enemies come into them. Because right now what you can see is we're backing the enemy into a crossfire. We're still missing all of the enemy TDs. So there's 2 places they could be. Actually 3. They could be hanging back here in, JK1, or they could be hanging out, on the rails, or they could be going up the hill. Now if they're going up the hill, that's going to cause problems for the group in the middle, myself and the 2 S-conks. If they're over this way, we pose a heavy risk to the Sturbs. Now you can also see on the opposite side, I'm calling the Sturbs to move up and the S-conks. Now the reason for that is I'm anticipating the majority of their team being on the opposite side of the tracks. So I'm trying to grab as much position on the 1, 2, 3 line so that if they decide to rotate back, they're not going to be able to do it cleanly. This is a wide open stretch. We want to pin them back here. Let's take a look and see what's going on. So you can see I just took a hit from a 140 and a Sturb. A 140, Sturb, they're both lit, so we're missing a version 4, missing some S-conks, a Kronwagen, and a couple more TDs. Now we can see an EBR over there. I'm looking for shots. I'm going to get hit by another Sturb, so both Sturbs are up there. Now we're just missing the E3. So you can see there, look on the left side of the minimap. On that one line, I'm asking the EBR, you got to go like that. Because I need to know if there's anything over there. If there is stuff over there, we need to take that out now. If there isn't, we have to get down there immediately. So again, we can pin them in the back. The S-conks are pushing over to take the bull. You take a look right there. Why should I push the S-conks in the bull? Because normally I wouldn't do that. That bull makes it's a good spot. However, if they have vehicles up top at A1, hugging the red line, they're going to struggle to stay safe. What the bull does provide you is fantastic shots down the JK line and, most importantly, into the middle. And that's where the majority of the enemy team is. Obviously, if the enemy team decided that they were going to push middle, what we need to do is they're going to win it, first of all. There's no stopping that. However, it's once they get in here, how do we stop it? So putting the S-conks in the mid as well as the Sturbs mean that they're going to take maximum damage coming over the top. Oh, we're going to drop Artie here, just so we can get rid of that. And it also means that our Chieftains over on the top side are going to get some okay shots. Now, I'm asking these 4 to just stay safe. That's all they have to do. They're heavily overmatched. They're being flanked from the left, and they're in the low ground. What they need to do is stay safe so that the group in the middle can shoot anything coming over. like that Sturm. So I'm taking a bit of a gamble here, and I'm pushing over. Now, there's the E3. The reason for that is that I believe that there's nothing down here now. I don't think that they would bring anything else on the JK line or leave anything there with so much of the enemy team here. So what this is going to do is allow me to get a little more crossfire. The more angles, the better. What you really don't want is tanks sitting right next to each other unless you're engaging a enemy team pretty much head on. The more, even just a couple of meters can mean the difference between a shot and not a shot. So if you have the ability to, spreading out is always the best option. So right now my focus is on the tanks on the high side. I don't really care. Let's zoom out again. I don't really care about these four right now. Reasoning for that is if they try and come over, they're going to get shot by 2 S-Conks and 2 Sturbs. So what these guys can't shoot is the stuff up here. So that's what I'm going to prioritize, not what they can shoot. You could say, well, that's not focusing fire. However, these guys up here pose the biggest risk. If we lose these 4 guys on the 0, they're all going to turn back and shoot us. So we really don't want them. Let's keep this battle rolling. Our EBRs are doing a nice job of engaging theirs, and you can see the Sturbs and the S-Conk causing a decent amount of damage to these guys right here. So now that these tanks have pushed up, I am going to refocus my attention to them, because I can no longer poke and shoot the tanks on top of the hill without these guys shooting me. We are up 6,000 health. However, the enemy still has decent map positioning and actually now pushing on these 4 vehicles here. However, these 4 chieftains are hull down, and they have IS-7s shooting him in the side. So it's not going to go very well for them right now. See, I'm using my Inspire, trying to maximize my damage in case I get pushed. We have lost 2 vehicles to theirs, but we are up a good amount of HP. And now the enemy team are basically throwing themselves into the 1 line. Now they still have tanks high side. I'm surprised at this point that they did not push the vehicles from the top all the way down and guarantee that overmatch. Instead, they have a Sturm and a 140 poking and sort of sniping, while they are occasionally getting shot by this S-Conk right here, and the IS-7. Again, taking a look, I am taking a decent amount of damage. However, it's okay to trade a little bit here. If we can use that, some of our extra hit points to bait these tanks over, there's no problem there. At some point, I'm going to decide that this isn't really worth it anymore. We're now up 9.6 thousand health. You can see the guys in the back. If you kind of think of this, like chess, where basically we pin down, their main force here. These guys are pretty much checkmated. The only way they can leave is by coming back this way. They can't push forward, they'll get shot on the side. They can't push out because they're going to lose cover, and they can't push in. So basically, that's a check on that group. Now our chieftains are continuing to win that. Now I'm going to go over here and engage this E3, and this is a interesting spot because this is a push we do often. So one thing I always tell people is that if the enemy are playing the 1-2 line, you have to hug the ridge right here where my cursor is. However, if they're playing the opposite side of the tracks, you need to hug the rails. Now, again, why is that? Well, you can see whatever they have on the hill can't shoot me because of the berm. If I was out here, they would be able to shoot over these rail cars. I'm going to get shots. And same with the other side. If they're hanging out where, let's say, Tank or Joker is, well, this ridge is going to keep me covered. For the most part, it's not as good. Whereas if I was along the tracks, they would be able to shoot over the berm. So just remember that, especially if you're close. So what I'm going to do is use this nifty little hold down spot to engage this E3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and beat him into shooting me. Now, I am a one-shot, but the odds of him pinning my turret are low. And what I want him to do is either fire or turn towards the Sturbs once they start shooting him so that I can then get in behind him. Now, I'm not quite sure if the E3 fired there. Our guys on the other side are now pushing up the hill. And pretty much it's now just free play at this point. So you can see here, we've boxed the enemy in completely. And we've been doing it slowly throughout this whole game. We pinned him in the middle, but they couldn't leave there. We had IS-7 shooting him in the side. We had S-Conks and myself in the middle. We were backed up by 2 S-Conks and Sturbs, and we had EBRs screening everything. And these 2 tanks hanging out over here at, or those 4 hanging out at DE0. So we basically took as much map position as quickly as possible, but we also had depth. It wasn't just tanks pushing over here alone, because they were backed up by 2 different groups. And while, it's just 2 IS-7s and, 2 S-Congs and Chieftains, both of them had backup too. Actually, the IS-7s didn't. What the IS-7s had was an easy escape route. The 3 group here were backed up by 2 S-Congs, 2 Sturbs, and EBRs. The enemy team had nowhere to go. And that's the reason I'm making a breakdown here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to instead start to track E3, just so we can get him out of here. And the reason for that is I know the Sturbs have a higher DPM than me, and there's no reason. So I'm going to look for it again. The front drive wheel is a little bit bigger. Not worried about the damage too much. Now that he's up the ridge like that, I'm going to try and push him sideways. One right into the back engine deck, and we're going to finish him off. Now we're up 15,000 health. And at this point, it comes down to don't give the enemies 5 kills. I'm going to look here. I spotted a Sturb, and now you can see those rail cars you can shoot through, or the rails you can shoot through them. Not the car. So that is a nice little Sturb fires. He gets finished off, and we are now just pushing in. And what's the amazing part is here, sorry to stop it again, is that we only actually lost 1 Chieftain over there. That's it. We lost only on the Chieftain. The IS-7 survived, Chuck survived, and Max survived. And look at how many dead tanks are around that area, or on this side of the tracks. Remember, we only had 4 vehicles on that side of the tracks to pretty much their entire team. And every single one of their vehicles, apart from the E3 and the EBR, are going to die on this side of the tracks with only 4 of our vehicles. They had a 3-to-1 overmatch on the 7890 line, and yet we finished off pretty much all of their vehicles. So we're going to look for a shot there on the Sturb. It's going to go a little bit high. Now, the big takeaway from here is that you can push with small groups. You don't need to send the entire team somewhere. But what you do need to have is a fallback plan in case they get pushed. The big thing is, if you're going to lose 4 tanks, you need to kill 5 or more. You can make that worth it, or gain map position out of it, or push them into a position where then they're going to get capped out. You have to have some goal if you're going to push tanks in that area. However, in this scenario, the enemy team did not want to commit, and were a little frightened by our very aggressive positioning early, and unfortunately, that caused them to lose. If they had pushed down the 9-0, they would have gotten themselves very far out of the fight, and our plan was to cap them out, which we probably would have been able to do. With 2 Sturbs hanging out in the back and 2 EBRs on cap, it would have been exceptionally difficult for them to push through the middle with this many vehicles in here. So I hope you enjoyed this battle breakdown. As normally, I don't do the post-game results because this is about the call, not about the performance of one individual or the team. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.